Welcome, everyone. I'm Madhu Shashanka. I'm the co-founder chief scientist at Concentric AI. And here with me today is Lane Sullivan, our chief information security and strategy officer. We are starting a new series that we call Before the Prompt, AI Unfiltered. AI is, it's hard to avoid AI. It's in the news every day. It's evolving at a rapid pace, lots of new developments to talk about. So Lane and I thought we would create this series where we talk about noteworthy events, recent updates, or things of interest at the intersection of AI, data security, cybersecurity, and we are planning for a monthly cadence, but we will. This is the first of our series, and
we're going to have some fun along. I mean, it's going to be a journey, right? And
that's right.
We won't put restrictions on it. Anything AI.
So with that, anything AI, it's quite broad, right? There's a lot going on, and especially in the last couple of months, so much has changed. Let's say this year, yes. 2026, yes. So much has changed. I think the biggest in our field, at least in software and cybersecurity, is how amazingly rapidly coding assistants and coding tools have improved. It has been shocking in terms of the advanced capabilities they have, almost to the point where a lot of people who were professional software coders are not coding anymore. They are leveraging and using these coding tools.
Can we pause and talk about the speed at which this stuff is coming at us, right? I remember it was like 2 years ago, it was like, hey, AI is definitely here. I remember, let me back up, about 4 years ago, I think it was 4 years ago, is when I started at Magellan doing the AI committee, right? The AI governance committee. It was pretty early on. AI was still in the beginning throes of the evolution. Even back then, it was like, do we really need something now? I think we do, and so formalize that. But man, you talk about 2 years ago, that boulder started moving. It's like every day something changes. When you talk about like the coding development, the market doesn't even know how to react to this kind of stuff. You see someone come out and they're like, hey, this is gonna displace this whole thing, and all of a sudden somebody's stock just drops 50%.
That's right. They're calling it, what is it, SaaSpocalypse?
Yes.
Cybersecurity stocks tanked, CrowdStrike, Zscaler, Palo Alto. There was,
yes.
The market cap took a big hit. And that's as the market does, it was an overreaction, at least in my opinion. But there is reason to worry a little bit, not so much around the business model or whether these companies are going to exist, but there are real consequences on the economy at large. Coding and software development is just one example. I think Lane, you and I were talking earlier. I've been reading articles where even the hardest of professions, like a theoretical physicist or a pure mathematician, even those professions, AI is finding a lot of impact, where some of them are feeling kind of sort of existentially threatened to some extent.
Well, I think everybody should, right? But to me, it's an evolution, and we don't want to react like the market did. But I remember reading one of those news articles in relation to that, where I don't remember who said it. It was like Amazon's CISO or something was saying that the compute cost for AI is so dramatically more than having a person doing the job right now. Doesn't mean it's always going to be that way, but it is more right now on like 80% of the jobs. So there's 20% out there that you can gain efficiencies using technology. But for 80% still that processing more. But that's why you see a lot of companies like Google jumping into the AI processing space, or Oracle jumping into the expansion of data centers for AI. They're cutting a bunch of their workforce just to have the money so they can invest it in the technology.
Absolutely. And you hit two things, right? So there is the capability itself, the technical capability, but there's also the economics of it and how people actually are going to leverage it. We have to look at those two things separately. The capability wise, there have been tremendous amount of innovation, right? The latest coding tools, to your point, Lane, how fast these things have been changing. Just 1 or 2 generations ago, these tools, they were like talking to a kindergarten, right? To, hey, help me write this function, and it'll make a mistake. And, oh, you missed this. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. Make the same mistake over again and confidently answer, oh, I got this right this time.
Yes.
Right. So we have come a long ways from that. But what's exciting is on the economic side is where there's a lot of excitement. I think there's a lot of flux. People are still trying to figure out where this will all lead to. Like you said, at least today, several companies are realizing that it's still not cost efficient to replace a lot of your developers. Maybe for, road development. One of the things is, all of these sort of custom consulting software development shops, I think for them, the writing's on the wall. I don't see that as a viable business model anymore. But if you're really building products, I think how the economics will evolve is an open question.
Yeah. And I said Amazon. I think it was NVIDIA.
It was NVIDIA.
NVIDIA said that. Yeah, that the processing power. Yeah.
And on that note, I came across 2 economists. They came out with a paper. They took this to the logical conclusion. They were like, okay, what happens? Let's say if this comes true, all software developers lose their jobs. What happened? And if you play that forward, sort of in terms of economic theory, then they have bad news because you don't have consumers for all the products that these companies are developing. If a whole lot of these people lose jobs, who's gonna buy the wares you're selling, right?
You can't afford it.
Yeah, it's why I guess Henry Ford, when he started Ford, he paid his employees well enough that they could afford the cars he was building. And this is sort of the reverse story that at least these 2 economists, that was an interesting paper. Now, whether that comes true or not, who knows?
I think that any innovation that we move through evolves through phases, and we can't actually predict what that next phase of evolution will be. So it's hard to say that we're going to follow that path. But I was thinking about the different modular aspects of AI, and most people don't realize, when you're talking to or putting prompts, I'm not talking to, you're not talking to anything. You're putting prompts into a Gen AI system. It doesn't matter if it's Copilot, Anthropic, ChatGPT, it doesn't matter, right? But those are general purpose. They don't have a very specific focal point of what it does. And so when you take a product that is built for a very specific thing, the error rates go down. You don't have those hallucinations. You don't have the things where you're arguing like, hey, no, I know this is wrong. I know this is wrong. Products are built for very specific reason. And so to me, that will always be the case. You're never going to displace a very specific product, even if it's an AI product with a general purpose AI model to try to do what you need to do, even in the corporate world, right?
Absolutely. I think, and even here, I see sort of two things. One is the capability itself, the capability of being able to solve a particular kind of technical problem. But the other piece is, I guess, the last mile, if you will, realizing the capability within an environment that's specific to your enterprise, specific to your configurations, your infrastructure, your people and how they work, your workflows. That is still quite a big gap, I feel. Just, throwing a capability around is not going to solve it, right? And what, Lane, you and I in a prior webinar, and we wrote this in our white paper, AI is democratizing a lot of this in the sense that people, without having to have the software skills, can leverage AI and they can start using it, but without thinking through a design, or if a business user automates a workflow with an AI agent and say, hey, go do this for me, and it does it for him or her, that's one thing. But taking that as a reliable, enterprise-tested functionality that you can make available to every employee in your enterprise, that needs deliberate design, that needs, there's a whole lot of complexity in that process where you do need products, right? That's what products do. So
well, and it goes to me more in depth from a security side, because Unleash, everybody wants a faster adoption rate with AI. They want to save money now and they want to invest in it. And so, they're breaking the barriers down that were built for reasons, right? But somebody vibe codes something and all of a sudden they want the whole org to have it. Okay, well, one person vibe coding doesn't make it an enterprise app. And those have to flow through the same pipelines that all the other developer tools we have goes into the pipeline gates, the SCAs, the DAS, the SAS, you have to put them into the right tool sets so that they flow through securely. The configurations are set up securely. But then think about taking an organization, breaking the barriers down and say, hey, everybody, go use AI to build all these things. How fast are you going to start spending money? Uber, there's an article where they spent their annual cost in their R&D in the first 3 months. It was like $3.4 billion that they spent in 3 months because they were pushing the AI, and we talked about how high the processing compute power is versus the human cost. They ran that out. What happens if all the companies do that, right?
I mean, that's what NVIDIA and OpenAI and Anthropic, they would love that. They're selling compute.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Their stock's going up.
Yeah.
Right.
But it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost of complexity, right? Who is managing all that complexity? What's the risk because of all that additional complexity? Lane, you and I, we talked about this, and we're going to dive in one of the future episodes or webinars, specifically agentic AI or agents are everywhere. But if you take a step back and think about it, agents are where, okay, whether you're lazy or you don't have the necessary skill sets, for one reason or another, you don't want to write the code. You let the agent write the code. But when you're building systems, enterprise systems that need to run in a predictable manner, that needs to have 5 nines of reliability and all that stuff, why would you want to have an agent rebuild those things over and over again where you have no understanding of how it is done?
Yeah.
If you prototype once with an agent, then you understand what it did, and then you build it in the regular way.
You mean predictability? You mean
and basic predictability, right?
Yeah, that's the thing that I think most people are struggling with in this age of AI, is that the path that we got here has always been we set predictable paths for the computer to compute, and it was do this, do this, do this, do this, and that was my end goal, and I built that path. And now we're just directing, saying I need that, and it figures out the path, but that becomes unpredictable. Mythos, right? The whole news with the hey, we allowed it to move in ways that we didn't understand. And matter of fact, we gave it an end state and it decided it couldn't do it the way that we gave it constraints. So it broke out of the box and it published those exploits on a forum somewhere and said, hey, I needed to get here in order to do this thing. Totally unpredictable.
Yeah, and it's wild, right? It created those exploits, it leveraged it, it opened up ports. But this is fascinating because it creates all kinds of risks. It's these AI systems, I think in industry they call it alignment, right? It's hard to align them to our values. Right now, what we have built are so focused on getting to the end goal. Hook or crook, I'm going to get there. And that creates a lot of problems. And we see it every day in data security. Yeah. I was just looking at a few stories lately. One was with Meta. Apparently, an engineer, he had a challenge. He put in an internal technical forum. Hey, I ran into this. How do I deal with this? An AI agent suggested some solutions that he implemented. And because of that, a lot of sensitive records were exposed to like a whole bunch of employees who were not authorized to see that information. Yep. And then we saw that Vercel breach that they disclosed,
yep.
Right? Where somebody used their Vercel login to get into, I think, Lane, you mentioned it was Roblox.
Roblox, yeah. They wanted to get a cheat code because they must be big Roblox players, so they needed some kind of cheat code. The download and the cheat code had malware.
That's why. And one of the things that caught my eye was that they said, somebody got into our environment, unauthorized access, they got their hands on a bunch of data, but they couldn't access data that they had marked sensitive. And I really, that struck me because you and we are seeing this with our clients, right?
Yes.
They are saying, hey, foundational problem is around data and visibility and knowing what I have across all my repositories and what is sensitive. And if that is a black box, then you have a problem, because in this case, it was a malware, but in the example of Meta, it was an agent. There are agents and co-pilots and AI assistants and malware, all of these eventually, there's unintended consequences with getting your data breached.
Yeah, it really reminds me of many years ago, we had somebody coined the defense in depth, and to me, the depth is going away because every time we'd set up tripwires, and every time a threat actor could go across, or an insider threat would go across a tripwire, then you would have a detective control that could alert, or a preventative control that would stop them from moving across that boundary or that tripwire. And we had spent a lot of years in the security industry building tripwires in all the paths that you could see that would gain access to data. And it was easier many years ago when the four walls were where your data was. And then you move to the cloud, and then everyone works from home, and now access paths don't run through firewalls. And so now the endpoint becomes the access. Now you have endpoint data that you've got to feed in to your SIEM. Very important on the multiple steps on the endpoint, not just like endpoint data, but north, south, east, west kind of traffic, lateral movement. But within AI, now we're talking that depth moves down to one step. And so if you don't protect what goes in there, and you don't have the right controls to know what happens when something gets prompted, it is access, prompt, exfiltrate. Like you're in the system once and you've got access to data.
That's right. And now you've given this power to everybody in the company who may not appreciate all of these things, like a business user, somebody in accounting. Now they're building apps because, as they should, right? They're trying to leverage the latest technology to make themselves more productive, to make the company productive, but there's a cost. And the cost is in two ways: increased risk, more opportunities for injections and attacks, and more opportunities for malicious people to get in. But also there is a cost of complexity. Somebody has to manage that complexity. And I came across this article on Substack. Lynn, you and I, we had a chuckle about it, right? Somebody, they vibe coded a AI discovery agent, and they realized theirs was the 161st, or
like 248th or something. Yes.
Right. And that's the complexity we're talking about, right? So people will redo. There is no longer an incentive for an employee to go see, hey, has someone else done this? Is there a tool I can leverage? Yeah, I can build it. I can ask Claude to build it. Yeah. And that creates a problem. It creates increased threat surface, and also a problem with visibility. Just knowing who's doing what's
out there, what the risk is. Yeah, what's being created. Of course, there's the story from Meta where they're tracking their employees and watching their mouse clicks and their everything they type, trying to learn the behavior from the person. But if there's an AI system monitoring the behavior of the person, it wouldn't be that hard to understand who's out there vibe coding and creating agents out there for you.
That's right. So it's it's a what's the term I'm looking for? Double-edged sword, I guess.
Yes. Yes.
But it's like, my dogs, when my wife comes in through the front door, even before she comes in, they know it's her, their tails are wagging. But my kids tell me when I come in, they know it's me. They're like, we don't care about this guy,
But if a system could start to identify behavioral traits, the question becomes where becomes the line of biometric data, and then that has a whole domino effect of what is being collected. Is there disclosure of being collected? How do they protect it? Is it trained on that data? And did you give it authorization to train on your own biometric data? There's a lot of privacy regulations I think I have to catch up with how fast the industry is moving with some of this stuff. I mean, look, Ford had put out, there was some news on Ford because they're, I don't remember, they applied for like 6 patents or something like that in 30 days on utilizing behavioral traits to control the vehicle, so that if you jumped in the vehicle and you were not calm enough to drive, then it wouldn't let you put it in drive, right?
I saw that. That is wild, right? It goes back to consumer rights. What does it mean to own a product? But at the same time, data, right? Who owns the data? Who is accountable for it? How do you share it? And everyone's talking about AI and AI regulations and how, whether it's regulatory bodies through legislations or, through litigations, whatever compliance frameworks we'll end up with, it's not just about AI models. All of it will affect data. Eventually.
Data is the foundation. If you think about if you look at, and it's a patchwork, and I don't know if we're going to be able to get out of that patchwork, and that scares me. If you operate a business just in the United States alone, there's a patchwork of privacy laws at the state level. Then look at the Fed level, depending on which industry you're in versus finance and healthcare. Then you move abroad and all the things. I know the more recent one that people are trying to catch up with is the NIS2 in the EU. The adoption of that is being pushed out fairly quickly, and some of them are backdating some of that stuff. But everything that you look at from the privacy standpoint starts with data. What kind of data you have, and are you protecting it the way you should be?
Exactly. It's not a nice to have. There is no security through obscurity. You have to deal with it, and the team is here, right? Okay. With that, I think, man, I guess it's time to wrap up.
Man, that went by too fast. That went by way too fast. We got 100 more things to talk. I bet you 10 more things hit the news while we were talking.
I know, right? I mean, we have to be careful. Otherwise, we'll be having a daily conversation, right?
That's right.
So
I wouldn't mind, Madhu.
Yeah, me neither. Lots of things to catch up on. Just as a parting thought, this is on a little bit of a humorous side. I saw OpenAI, they released a competing coding agent to Anthropic's Claude called Codex. Somebody found their prompts, the system prompts that they had set up. And let me quote, "Never talk about goblins, gremlins, raccoons, trolls, ogres, pigeons, or other animals or creatures unless it is absolutely and unambiguously relevant."
What did the pigeons do to them?
It just highlights how little we understand how some of these systems work under the hood, and the designers themselves have to give prompts like this. And these are the kinds of very capable but little understood AI technologies we are working with, and it becomes all the more critical that we find ways to secure this technology.
I say that I hope that everyone got benefit out of this, because in the most unpredictable world, as fast as things are moving, my hope is that we give some kind of predictability around what to do next in the stuff that we talk about, so that the awareness is there, so that you can create a better path forward for the organization you work for and for yourself at home.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. Thank you, Lane. We'll chat until next time.
All right.